I've done a lot of research and teaching about how working caregivers are impacted. It's very important to me, probably in part because I lived through it. I was a primary caregiver and working full-time. And from all I've learned and experienced, I want to focus on just this question to start. How many working caregivers are talking about their caregiving to their employer or their coworkers? From the nonprofit Transamerica Institute comes the following really valuable data. A fascinating slide showing who working caregivers have talked with at work about their caregiving situation. On the left is the data for full-time workers, and on the right is data for those working part-time. The largest bar is the worker's immediate supervisor. That's the person who is most often hearing about the working caregiver situation. And you can see the other categories there. My direct reports, HR or human resources, other management, other coworkers, and then look at that last line. I've not told anyone at work. It's telling us that 1 in 5 full-time working caregivers have not told anyone at their employer that they are a caregiver. And trying to achieve balance with that is hard work. And it's 30% of part-time working caregivers who've not mentioned their caregiving to anyone at work. Now, every workplace is different, and every person and caregiving situation is different, so we can't judge individual decisions that people are making. But when we said that 23 million people are balancing employment with caregiving, it's about 6 million who are not mentioning the situation to their employer at all. And that aggregate number is huge and concerning. It's concerning because the disruption to one's career can be pretty severe. We already saw how many are retiring early, taking a leave of absence, turning down promotions and opportunities. And their employer may not even know that that's coming. In fact, when asked, 50%, yes, fully 1/2 of working caregivers report that they feel reluctant to talk about their caregiving situation with their employer. This is the number I think about all the time when I think about working caregivers. Caregiving, as we know and have talked about in this course, takes a huge commitment and a huge chunk of your time. It's a big part of life. But a full half of working caregivers are hesitant to even talk about this with their employer. And we saw that half of those end up not talking to their employer. These numbers speak to me so loudly because I think we can do something about these numbers. Now, I get it. I know there is a lot of fear of speaking to an employer about caregiving, but many employers are more receptive than employees think, and some of them have resources to assist. But we can't ever know about those resources if we don't talk about our situation and ask for help. A few hypotheses to understand the concern. Caregivers often don't want to mix business and personal boundaries. Caregivers think they'll be judged. They think that that kind of judgment will end up penalizing them or disadvantaging them in favor of their colleagues. And while some of those fears and risks are real, the majority of those risks just can't be determined without engaging the employer, and it's likely worth a conversation. In another module and chapter of this course, we talked about the stigma that may inhibit our seeking help around mental and emotional health. Here is some more stigma, and we need to be aware of it and combat it. One way that can help us feel better and more confident about the colliding roles of working and caregiving is to understand what's behind this very interesting data in these 2 pie charts. Now, let me start by saying it's subjective. It's the judgment of respondents to a question posed by the nonprofit Transamerica Institute, who asked, how supportive is your employer of your caregiving responsibilities? Responses are divided by part-time workers and full-time workers. But the notes there in black text by each pie chart show a combined answer of very supportive and somewhat supportive. 72% of full-time working caregivers say their employers are overall supportive of their caregiving situation. And 64% of part-time working caregivers indicate the same, that their employers are supportive overall. Now, the red slices in these charts are the ones that might cause fear and anxiety, employers who are not at all supportive, and those are relatively small, 8% and 10% for full-time and part-time workers, respectively. Perhaps the most concerning slices are the yellow ones. Employees who are working full-time and part-time and giving care at home, and they report they do not know if their employer is supportive of this balance or not. I'm hopeful that the green and blue slices could motivate people in those yellow areas to have the conversation. And my honest opinion is that the red and orange slices can be mitigated a little further. There is a lot more data out there than this, which we'll cover in a future course. But for now, we simply encourage working caregivers to proactively have conversations that at least explore what the real attitude and supportive stance of employers is or is not.